All right, so today I wanted to talk about an interesting thing I seen, and it's from Brittany Martinez saying, "What's causing such a high rate of mental health diagnosis in this particular demographic?" Linking to a story saying over 50% of liberal white women under 30 have a mental health issue, and it's a 2020 Pew Research study. So would have to assume that it's credible and valid. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this. And from the outside looking in, again, obviously there is speculation to some degree, but personally, I think the main reasons for stuff like this is very obvious. Like I don't know who we're fooling when it comes to a lot of this stuff. I don't know who they think they're fooling when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Um, the biggest one is the lie of feminism, right? That's by far the biggest thing that's causing this, and that if you look back in time, women self-identified as being the most happy. I think it was like I think it was in the 1950s, right? The peak of the traditional housewife, kind of traditional gender roles, right? Now, am I saying that women should be forced to do? No, I'm not saying that kind of stuff, right? I'm pretty libertarian when it comes to this kind of stuff, but again, you have to point out the facts, right? You have to point out the facts. This whole, um, oh, you gotta get a career, and you gotta go to college, and don't have kids, or if you do have kids, do it in your 30s or hell, even 40s. Some people try to do. Um, it's not working out, right? It's not working out. Now, there's other things that are going into this too. Like again, a big lie that we're told about history and about even in the here and now is that that this women in the workforce, right? That it's due to feminism, right? It's due to feminism, but that's partially true, but it's also a big lie, and that's part of the reason why so many women are in the workforce is because they're essentially forced to. Like up until like a generation or two ago, women didn't need to work, right? If you were a man, you got a couple, man and a woman, right? Like even if you worked like a trade, like even like a not something that's a high paying job. I mean, they're still decent paying. Like you work the equivalent to like a, let's say, a $50,000 a year job as a man. Women didn't need to work. And why was that? Well, because life was way more affordable back then. You could buy a middle class house for like 2 years' wages, right? Like the equivalent to like $100,000 this year. Just imagine being able to buy like the equivalent to like a four or $500,000 house for $100,000. Like that's how much more affordable things were back then, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is very simple. A big reason why women ended up in the workforce, feminism does explain some of it, but it doesn't explain all of it. And that a big reason why women ended up in the workforce is because they had to. I mean, median wages haven't gone up in like 20 years, but inflation's still running at least 2% a year. Cost of housing has gone up even more than that, especially in the big cities. It's like one in the double digits it's going up per year, right? So that's it, it's just a lie that I really wish people would bring up more, because again, people seem to, the whole strong and power. No, that's a lie, right? That's largely a lie. It does explain some of it, but it doesn't explain all of it. And again, this is the thing. Um, Whether these women would like to admit it or not, the majority, I would guess the majority of them, would much rather be a stay-at-home mom. At the very least in the early days, right? Like personally, I would say the best way of doing things on average, because there's always exceptions, but on average, you have kids in your early to mid 20s. I mean, nowadays that's impossible because things are so unaffordable, but let's just say we had, actual, sane fiscal policy, and people weren't basically forced to go to college, and things were actually somewhat affordable, right? You would have kids in your early to mid 20s, and now by the time you're in your mid 30s as a woman, you could have a career, because once your kids get old enough to where they can be home alone, nothing saying you can't go work, right? The problem is that they do it the other way around, right? I got to get your career, and you got to get your established in your 20s, and I'll have kids later. Well, it doesn't work out a lot of the times, right? And that they don't end up having kids, and that they just wait too long, or they just get so preoccupied. And this is another thing that is a big lie about society that you really need to bring up. And it is a massive lie, and people really need to understand it. Women's sexual market value peaks in their early 20s, mid 20s at the latest. Men's sexual market value a lot of times doesn't peak until 40s, to be honest. Right? So basically, if you're a woman, every day after, mid to late 20s, your sexual market value is going down. Men, it's going up. Right? So this is why you see so many unhappy women in their 30s and 40s, in that they almost certainly passed over a high quality guy, but at the time they didn't think it was a high quality guy, right? Because their sexual market value's through the roof. Men's sexual market value still hasn't peaked yet. If they were smart, they would have recognized that, right? And if society wouldn't lie to them about that basic fact, right? So when women are young, they can get men without even trying. But once they get into their 30s, and especially their 40s, all of a sudden that goes away to a large degree, right? And if it is, it's men don't want you because want you for a relationship, right? Um, so again, in a nutshell, I think this can be explained almost entirely due to the lies that society tells women. Now, they would say the same thing, right? The feminists would say the same thing. Oh, it's the lies of society, right? But the data doesn't bear that out. None of the feminine, no data bears out the feminist tropes, right? The whole um, data doesn't bear it out, right? It's very simple, right? Um, so again, like I said, I think it's very obvious. I think there's other things that play into it as well. But I think this stuff is very obvious that um, women learn. I think that this is it. Women learn the hard way that they've been lied to by society, and that really bothers them. Right? Now, for the ones that, you know, recognize their wrongdoing, okay, yeah, I feel sorry for them. But the ones who don't, I could care less. Like, again, this is another thing about society that people really need to understand, is that you should have no reason to have sympathy for people who refuse to listen to reason. Like, absolutely not. Like, again, like, it's like I always bring up, why would you have why would you care for people more than they care about themselves? I don't get it. Right? So again, like, all you can do in my mind is tell these people, yeah, you may be an exception to the rule, but on average, this whole, you're a young woman, and it's, oh, go get a degree, and then go get a job and get a career, and then worry about having kids and a family and stuff like that. Like, it's possible. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, right? Obviously, there's exceptions, but the majority of women, that's not going to be what's most fulfilling. And this is another thing too. If you're a very attractive woman, even if you're a moderately attractive woman, you shouldn't have an issue attracting a good quality guy, right? This is the thing that just boggles my mind about a lot of them. And the reason why, I think, is that they're so overwhelmed with guys that are interested in them. It's like, well, why would I settle down? Like, I have endless amounts of guys interested in me. Why would I settle down? Again, I understand that. Um, but again, they got to understand the lie of, if you keep going down that path, eventually those guys are going to go away. And what a lot of them don't realize is that that usually happens a lot faster than they think. And here's the reason why. I've already kind of got into it, but again, once you get into your late 20s, early, 30s, early 30s, as a woman, again, your sexual market value is going down. And once you get into your 30s and late 30s especially, it goes down very, very fast. If you're a man, it's going up, right? So if you're a woman, let's say you take like a 10-year difference, right? 25 to 35. The quality of men you're going to be able to attract at 25 is a lot higher than at 35, at least on average. And for men, it's the opposite, usually, right? Um, the quality of women you're going to be able to attract at 35 is higher than when you're at 25, right? At least, like I say, on average. And that's why things can change. It seems seemingly overnight for a lot of these people, right? But again, this is for people under 30, right? This is under 30, but I think the numbers would be pretty comparable, even if you go under 40, under 50. I think that it would still be a staggeringly high amount. Um, but I think the biggest thing that's causing this is the lies of society, the lies of, oh, you gotta go to college, right? You gotta go to college, right? You can't be a stay-at-home mother, right? Like, again, I'm not saying you have to be, but the data very clearly bears out it's more likely to make you happy, right? It's more likely to make you happy. And I think the other thing too is the political aspect of this too, that these women are indoctrinated into becoming the crazy leftists, socialist types. And as much as from the outside looking in, they may appear to be happy or at the very least content. At the end of the day, most of those femme, they can't stand themselves. They can't stand their life. Because why would you? Your entire worldview is based around a lie, right? And even if you think it's true, it's still not fulfilling, right? So again, like, and the last thing I would bring up too is that the worst thing about this situation is that they're not going to listen to reason and evidence, right? That these people's solution, it's just going to be more of the same, right? It's more of the same. Oh, it's sexism that's causing this stuff. It's racism, and it's all these just complete lies that are not the real reason for this stuff. Like, again, how do you fix these problems? Well, um, a step in the right direction is pretty easy, but how do you fix the problems? It's not all that hard, right? It's not all that hard. You you stop all these stupid leftist economic policies that make life so unaffordable for young people, right? That's not hard to do. It would take a while for it to take effect, but it's not hard to do. You stop basically forcing kids to go to college. You stop requiring people to have college degrees for jobs that it's largely irrelevant. And you stop lying to people about the lies of feminism, right? That's really all you have to do. The problem would largely go away. Are any of those things that hard to do? Not really. I mean, the changing the economic policy would be, but that's only because people are so brainwashed. So again, like, and this is the fundamental problems with society. They all come back to people just don't want to listen to reason and evidence, right? They just don't want to, right? Like, again, like, I listen to people complain about these problems all the time. But yet, on the flip side, they still believe the lies that caused the problem, right? So again, do people deserve sympathy for this kind of stuff? To some degree, but most of them don't. Most of them don't, right? Like, it's not like there's a lack of data and stuff on this kind of stuff. Like, do you actually think that these women who, go get a degree and then go get a career, like, do you actually think they've never heard once in their life that stay-at-home moms are happier, that they've never seen happier stay-at-home moms? And like I say, the big reason for this too is just the lies of the media and of public schools and of like entertainment as well. Like, every single TV show and movie is always, when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's always showing the whole career woman as this great, the happiest person in the world, and they got it all figured out, when in reality they don't, right? That's not reality. Like, when have you seen one movie or TV show? It probably exists, but not nearly to the extent that it should. Of, a woman who, goes to college and gets in a bunch of debt, and then, gets a career that at the end of the day they don't really like. They don't have kids. They don't have a family. And then, going into their, late 30s, early 40s, becomes incredibly depressed. Like, when have you ever seen that? It doesn't exist, but it's clearly happening a ton, right? The whole strong, empowered women, those are few and far between. They exist, but they're 1%, right? So again, like, it's just what's causing this is the lies of society, and it's not the way. Again, the like I said, the feminists would say that too. It's people wanting to force traditional gen. No, that's not what's causing this, right? Because the data very clearly shows that that would make the average woman happier, right? So yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, I don't think that these problems are all that hard to figure out, but they're hard to figure out because people they don't want to listen to the reason, they don't want to listen to evidence, they don't want the truth, right? So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you could do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.